Well, folks, here we are again for the weekly forecast. But before we get to the main forecast, let's take a retrospective of the past week. And one of the things that we've seen was, over this last week, very warm temperatures moving into the region. Of course, we kind of talked about this last week as we've seen that upper air trough projected to move into the central plains as we got into the later part of the week, and in advance of that we'd pump up the warm air. Well, actually the models underplayed the intensity of that pumping of warm air up into our region, and it brought a lot of humidity levels up across to Iowa, southern Minnesota, and interacted with the frontal boundary movement across the northern United States. Therefore, we've seen some significant moisture breakout for about a 2-day period over northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, where we had totals anywhere from 2 to upwards of a foot, depending on the location. We've seen severe flooding out of Minneapolis, severe flooding out of Mason City, and unfortunately it's probably going to have some significant impacts on some of the crops in this region. On top of that, we're looking at this trough moving out this weekend that is going to possibly generate some additional heavy precipitation over these areas, so we would expect to see continued flooding concerns emanate out of this region, probably looking at a very slow haul in terms of getting their harvest activity underway. Now this week we're going to introduce some new graphics to you. We'd like to thank Stoney Cooper, who is our programmer with the State Climate Office, for developing these slides. Hopefully these will make it much easier for you to follow us as we give the weather forecast. So we're going to get right away to the first example slide that we're going to use. And this will be the new upper air patterns that we're going to show. So this green area here basically is where the primary formation of the jet is, the strongest winds aloft. At the surface, you'll see these red lines. This is your surface pressures. And then the blue up here in the northwest, these lines, basically this is the thickness levels of the atmosphere. So these are the three things that we're going to be talking about consistently from this point forward. And of course, you have your surface lows and highs that we talk about in terms of direction. So as we look for today, what we notice is that we have a large trough in the atmosphere that's pumping up this moisture into our region. And this is expected to slowly grind its way toward the east. So we have a surface low to the south of us and one to the north. And that north one is going to be the one that's going to take over. We're going to see the system wrap up pretty strongly, and as we move forward, we're going to deeply intensify it, bring to significant moisture to the east of us, but for us we're probably looking at just a chance for this weekend for moisture. Now this system right now is expected to generate itself over the Great Lakes region and slowly cut off and scatter around to the east of us. In the meantime, we'll be watching a trough to the west of us starting to make its way westward or eastward as we get through this week, and potentially impacting our region as we get into early October. The one fly in the ointment is that the models have been playing around with this cutoff upper level low and pushing it all around. So as you see by this model, it looks like that we are going to be looking at a dry period after this weekend, and then we'll start to look at around the 3rd of October before we start to see north system come in. So in terms of radar, precipitation forecast, this is our precipitation forecast for today. Most of it will remain to the east of us, the heaviest precipitation across southeast Nebraska, and then as we go into tomorrow, you'll see this heavy line of precipitation anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. And as we go into the later part of the weekend, we start to see that sliding off to the east of us with a drying pattern in our region. This system really gets itself wound up and slowly migrates to the east. So I expect we're going to see flooding problems all the way across the eastern portion of the Corn Belt, and especially as it gets toward the eastern seaboard and starts pumping up some of that Atlantic moisture into the region. For our area, we start to turn our attention around the 1st of October to the system starting to make its way into our region, and we start to bring moisture into the central plains, and we would expect that this will start to intensify as we get into the central plains around the 5th of October, and this will start to migrate its way up into the upper Midwest and renew the flooding problems that we've seen in this region. Now in terms of the 8 to 14-day forecast, we are looking at above normal conditions from next Thursday through the following Tuesday, and in terms of precipitation, much of the upper Midwest will be above normal in terms of moisture.